Hi, welcome to our brand new Microsoft Azure Fundamental AZ900 Dummy Questions 2022. In this video, we are going to discuss all the dummy questions of Microsoft Azure Fundamental AZ900 Dummy Questions 2022. I am your host Kushal Mehta, and let's get started. Question 1. You are building an application using a virtual machine in Azure. As a security requirement, it is necessary to apply Azure multi-factor authentication based on certain conditions. Which Azure service should you choose? And the options are: Option 1, Azure Monitor; Option 2, Azure Security Center; Option 3, Azure Active Directory ID Protection; Option 4, Azure Advanced Threat Protection. And the answer is Option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. This is because Azure Active Directory ID Protection allows you to apply MFA with conditions. It is also used to detect risks such as anonymous IP address logins, unfamiliar sign-ins, and credential leaks. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure Monitor is incorrect because this is for collecting what is known as application monitoring data about the performance and functionality of the code you write, regardless of platform. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure Security Center is an integrated infrastructure security management system that enhances the security structure of data center. It's an advanced threat protection feature that protects your entire hybrid workload, both on the cloud and on premises. With this option, you can't use MFA. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure ATP is incorrect because it is used to monitor and analyze user activity and information across the network, such as permissions and group membership. Question 2. Fill in the blank. Dash provides a command platform for deploying objects to your cloud infrastructure and maintaining consistency throughout your Azure environment. The options are: Number 1, Azure Policy; Number 2, Resource Group; Number 3, Azure Resource Manager; Number 4, Management Group. And the answer is Option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure Resource Manager is a service that provides a management layer that allows you to create, update, and delete Azure resources, all while maintaining consistency across your Azure environment. Option 2 is incorrect. A resource group is a group that manages related resources in an Azure solution. Option 4 is incorrect. A management group is a group for managing multiple subscriptions. Question 3. You are planning to extend your company's network to Azure and create a hybrid cloud configuration. In the on-premises environment, a VPN appliance that has the IP address of 136.168.103.1 is used, and it is necessary to identify this on the Azure side. Which is the best solution for this situation? And the options are: Number 1, Route Table; Number 2, Application Gateway; Number 3, Local Network Gateway; Number 4, Network Interface. And the correct answer is Option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. The Local Network Gateway can be used to specify the IP address and the VPN device in the virtual network. This allows Azure to identify VPN appliances that use the IP address of 136.168.103.1. Option 1 is incorrect. The routing table is the route information recorded in the router itself. It is the table to be referred to when performing the routing process, but it does not identify the IP address of the VPN appliance. Option 2 is incorrect. Application gateways are used to load balanced traffic to various web applications. It does not identify the IP address of the VPN appliance. Option 4 is incorrect. The network interface allows Azure VMs to communicate with Internet, Azure, and on-premises resources. It does not identify the IP address of the VPN appliance. Question 4. Which of the following Azure regions is available to Japanese government agencies? Number 1. Azure Global. Number 2. Azure Government. Number 3. Azure Local. Number 4. Azure Japan. And the answer is option 1. Option 1 is the correct answer. The Azure region available to Japanese government agencies is Azure Global. Azure Global is a publicly available region that the average user will use. There is no region dedicated to Japanese government agencies, so Azure Global should be used in this case. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure Government is a mission-critical cloud that delivers breakthrough innovations to US government customers and their partners. Only the US federal government, state governments, local governments, tribal governments, and their partners have access to this dedicated instance, and operations are managed by the selected US citizens. Option 3 is incorrect. There is no region called Azure Local. Option 4 is incorrect. There is no region called Azure Japan. There are Azure China and Azure Germany. Question 5. There is an Azure virtual network named VNET-A in a resource group named My Resource Group. VNET-A dash when you assign an Azure policy that says that My Resource Group is not allowed to create or update virtual networks. And the options are: Number 1 is automatically deleted. Number 2 is automatically moved to another resource group. Number 3 will continue to function normally. And number 4 becomes a read-only object. And the answer is option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure policies do not affect the pre-apply configuration. Therefore, VNet-A works fine because it was already created before the Azure policy was created. However, My Resource Group does not allow you to create any more VNETs. Question 6. Your company wants to use a serverless application to automate the data registration process. Which Azure service should you use? And the options are: Number 1, Azure App Service. Number 2, Azure Functions. Number 3, Azure Dev Ops. Number 4, Azure Monitor. And the answer is option 2. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. Azure Functions is an event-driven serverless computing platform that can solve complex orchestration problems. You can use this to develop serverless applications. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure App Service is a fully managed development platform for building, deploying, and scaling web apps. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure DevOps is a development and operations service that enables smarter planning and DevOps working using the latest set of development services. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure Monitor is a monitoring service for applications, infrastructures, and networks on Azure. Question 7. You want to deploy multiple web servers and multiple database servers in Azure. As a security measure, you need to limit the connection to the database server to be only from web server. Which solution should you use for this? Number 1, Azure Service Bus. Number 2, Azure DDoS Protection. Number 3, Route Filter. Number 4, Network Security Group. And the answer is option 4. Explanation. Option 4 is the correct answer. You can use Azure Network Security Groups to filter network traffic to and from Azure resources in your Azure virtual network. Network security groups contain security rules that allow or deny inbound or outbound network traffic to many types of Azure resources. You can specify the source, destination, port, and the protocol for each rule. Option 1 is incorrect. Microsoft Azure Service Bus is a fully managed enterprise integration message broker with message queues and publish or subscribe topics. Option 2 is incorrect. DDoS protection is a service that provides constant monitoring and automatic network attack mitigation. It protects your Azure resources from distributed denial of service attacks. Option 3 is incorrect. Route filtering is a way to take advantage of a subset of the services support through Microsoft peering. Option 8. Which of the following statements is correct? And the options are: Option 1. Data stored in Azure storage account will have at least 2 copies in the primary region. Option 2. Data stored in your Azure storage account will have at least 3 copies in the secondary region. Option 3. Data stored in your Azure storage account will have at least 2 copies in the secondary region. And option 4. Data stored in your Azure storage account will have at least 3 copies in the primary region. And the correct answer is option 4. Option 4 is the correct answer. Data in your Azure storage account is always replicated 3 times in the primary region. The Azure storage account copies the data 3 times within the primary region and keeps things synchronous with each other. It is also asynchronously copied to the secondary region. An Azure storage account contains all Azure storage data objects, blobs, files, queues, tables, and disks. Option 1 is incorrect. Data in your Azure storage account is always replicated 3 times in the primary region. Option 2 and 3 are incorrect. Data replication to the secondary region requires optional settings, and this means it does not always retain a copy. This shouldn't be assumed in the above scenario. Question 9. Your company leverages multiple regions to deploy Azure virtual machines. Users in each office are required to create Azure resources only in the region of the country in which their office is located. Which is the best solution from the below options to make sure that these rules are being followed correctly? Number 1. Resource group. Number 2. Compliance policy. Number 3. Azure policy. Number 4. Azure rules. And the answer is option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure policy allows you to apply your organization standards and assess compliance with them on a large scale. You can use Azure policies to apply policies to management groups or resource groups that limit the space available for creating resources. This policy applies to all subscriptions and resources under that management group by only allowing the creation of resources in that region. You can define policies used to limit use of Azure resources to only the region in which each office is located. Question 10. You plan to build a web application using multiple Azure virtual machines. The requirement is to ensure that the services running on the virtual machine do not stop in the event of a single data center failure. Proposed solution. Deploy virtual machines in 2 or more regions. In this, the most appropriate solution to meet the above requirements. Number 1, yes. Number 2, no. And the answer is option 2. Explanation. No is the correct answer. A single region is made up of multiple availability zones. Therefore, to prevent a single data center failure, you only need to use multiple availability zones and do not need to have a multi-region configuration. In addition, multi-region support is not optimal in terms of architectural configuration because it is difficult to link virtual machines across regions. Question 11. Which services provides network traffic filtering for multiple Azure subscriptions and virtual networks? Number 1. Azure Firewall. Number 2. Application Security Group. Number 3. Azure DDoS Protection. Number 4. Network Security Group. And the answer is option 1. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. Azure Firewall allows you to limit traffic to different virtual networks with multiple subscriptions. Option 2 is incorrect. Application security groups are services for grouping virtual machines and managing access within a virtual network. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure DDoS protection is a service that prevents distributed denial of service attacks. Option 4 is incorrect. A network security group is a service that manages access within a virtual network. Question 12. Which deployment method should you choose to reduce downtime for the application you are deploying? And the options are: Option 1, multi-AZ deployment. Option 2, multi-region deployment. Option 3, single AZ deployment. Option 4, multi-subnet deployment. And the correct answer is Option 1. Explanation. Option 1, Azure's architectural configuration is built around regions and availability zones. Each region is a separate geographical area. Each region is further made up of multiple availability zones. A multi-AZ configuration can increase availability so that downtime does not occur, even if one data center fails. Therefore, multi-AZ is the correct answer. Question 13. What are the security benefits of storing data in the Azure public cloud? And the options are: Option 1, Azure staff can protect your data. Option 2, users have full control over their data. Option 3, data content can be monitored on the Azure side. And number 4, protection is automatically implemented without the need for users to manage their own data security measures. And the correct answer is Option 2. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. In Azure, all the data used in applications is completely controlled by the user, and Azure themselves do not have the authority to access the data. Options 1 and 3 are incorrect. Azure does not have permission to access the data. Option 4 is incorrect. Users are required to take measures such as data encryption themselves. Question 14. Please fill in the blank. Your company should use dash to automatically add watermarks to Microsoft Word documents that contain credit card information. And the options are: Number 1, Azure policy. Number 2, Azure DDoS protection. Number 3, Azure information protection. And number 4, Azure Active Directory identity protection. And the correct answer is Option 3. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure Information Protection can label content to detect, classify, and protect documents and emails. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure policies are for applying organizational rules and checking compliance of resources. It does not have document protection features. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure DDoS protection is a service to prevent distributed denial of service attacks and does not have document protection features. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure Active Directory Identity Protection is used for identity-based risk analysis using data from Azure portal and has no document protection capabilities. Question 15. Which of the following Azure management tools are available for Mac OS? Please select the 3 most appropriate tools. And the options are: Option 1, Azure CLI. Option 2, Azure PowerShell. Option 3, Azure Mac Management. Option 4, Azure Portal. Option 5, Azure Console. And the answers are Option 1, 2 and 4. Explanation. Options 1, 2 and 4 are correct answers. You can use the Azure CLI, Azure Portal, and Azure PowerShell for Mac OS. The Mac OS operating system is supported by the Azure CLI, Azure Portal, and Azure PowerShell. Starting with PowerShell 6.0, PowerShell Core can run PowerShell on Mac OS and Linux. Question 16. You need a database to store JSON formatted documents. This database needs to be accessed and used from multiple regions at the same time. Which database is best for this? And the options are: Option 1, Azure Cosmos DB. Option 2, Azure Synapse Analytics. Option 3, Azure SQL Database. Option 4, Azure Cache for Redis? And the answer is option 1. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. Azure Cosmos DB is a fully managed NoSQL database service for modern app development. It has guaranteed single-digit millisecond response time in 99.999% availability. Azure Cosmos DB can store JSON documents. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure Synapse Analytics is a fully managed cloud data warehouse. You can get query results in short time across terabytes and petabytes of data. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure SQL Database is fully managed, intelligent, relational cloud database. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure Cache for Redis, a fast, fully managed in-memory data store. It is not suitable for storing JSON documents. Question 17. You want to deploy multiple virtual machines using ARM templates. It is necessary to maintain strong security of credentials such as usernames and passwords outside of the template itself. Please select the best service for this. Option 1. Azure Key Vault. Option 2. Vault Lock. Option 3. Network Security Group. Option 4. User Data. And the answer is option 1. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. You can manage secrets by using Azure Key Vault. You can securely store tokens, passwords, certificates, API keys, and other secrets, and have tight control over the access to them. Question 18. True or false? All Azure resources deployed in a single resource group must share the same Azure region. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2. Explanation. The correct answer is false. A resource group, a container that holds related resources for an Azure solution, can contain resources from different regions. Question 19. You want to create a resource group named Resource 1 in Azure Resource Manager. What settings would you need to prevent accidental deletion and overwriting of Resource 1's resources? And the options are option 1. Set a read-only lock on the resource. Option 2. Set a delete lock on the resource. Option 3. Set operation locks for resources. And option 4. Set delete and update locks on the resources. And the answer is option 1. Explanation. Administrators can look subscriptions, resource groups, or resources to prevent accidental deletion or modification of critical resources. The following looks can be performed. Delete locks allow legitimate users to read and modify resources but cannot delete them. Read-only locks allow legitimate users to read resources but cannot update or delete resources. Therefore, option 1 is the correct answer. Question 20. True or false? Azure virtual machines can belong to multiple resource groups. True or false? And the answer is false. Explanation. False is the correct answer. Azure virtual machines are resources that cannot be deployed to multiple resource groups within an Azure subscription. It can only belong to one resource group at a time. Therefore, this is incorrect. Question 21. True or false? All features of Azure Security Center are free. True or false? And the answer is false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Azure Security Center offers free and paid services. The free tier only provides security policies, ongoing security assessments, and practical security features that help protect your Azure resources. Paid services extend the free tier functionality and add threat protection. It has built-in behavioral analytics and machine learning to identify attacks and zero-day exploits, and uses access and application control to reduce exposure to network attacks and malware. In addition, it has a virtual machine vulnerability scan. Question 22. What are the characteristics of the cloud that allow cloud-based applications to continuously provide a user experience in the event of a problem without incurring downtime? Number 1. Reliability. Number 2. Scalability. Number 3. Elasticity. Number 4. Agility. And the answer is option 1. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. Reliability depends on the service level agreement you choose, but in the event of a problem, your cloud-based application will continue to provide the user experience without any obvious downtime. Option 2 is incorrect. Scalability means that applications in the cloud can be scaled or increased in two distinct ways, which are in-out and up-down. Option 3 is incorrect. Elasticity means that cloud-based applications can be configured to always have the resources they need at the moment. Option 4 is incorrect. Agility is cloud-based resources that can be quickly deployed and configured as application requirements change. Question 23. Your company plans to migrate mission-critical systems to Azure virtual machines. The application is being built should guarantee 99.99% availability. What is the minimum number of virtual machines you need to use to maintain this availability? Option 1, 1. Option 2, 2. Option 3, 3. Option 4, 4. And the answer is option 2. Option 2 is the correct answer. Based on the VM's SLA, deploying at least 2 VMs on 2 AZs guarantees 99.99% availability. Therefore, the minimum number of virtual machines is 2. Question 24. You are planning to provision infrastructure as a service resources in Azure. Which of the following resources is an example of IaaS? And the options are option A, Azure Web Apps. Option 2, Azure Virtual Machine. Option 3, Azure Logic Apps. And option 4, Azure SQL Database. And the answer is option 2. Explanation. The correct answer is option 2. The Azure Virtual Machine is correct here because the Azure VM is based on IaaS. This gives users more control over their environment and the ability to customize their hosting or development environment. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure Web Apps are incorrect as PaaS used to build applications on the Azure platform without deploying, configuring, and maintaining their own Azure virtual machines. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure Logic Apps is incorrect because it is a PaaS that helps you schedule, automate, and coordinate tasks, business processes, and workflows when you need to integrate apps, data, systems, and services across your enterprise or organization. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure SQL is also PaaS, so it's incorrect. SQL acts as a relational database in the cloud that allows users to host data without worrying about the infrastructure. Question 25. You need to create an Azure support request. Choose the two best solutions. And the options are option 1, Azure Support Ticket REST API. Option 2, Azure Portal. Option 3, Knowledge Center. Option 4, Security and Compliance Center. Option 5, support.microsoft.com. And the correct answer is option 1, Azure Support Ticket REST API, and option 2, Azure Portal. Explanation. Option 1 and 2 are correct answer. You can make a support request from the Azure Portal. You can also use the Azure Support Ticket REST API to programmatically create and manage requests. Option 3 is incorrect. Knowledge Center is incorrect. Knowledge Center is a collection of common questions and answers about Azure. Option 4 is incorrect. The Security and Compliance Center only provides operations related to security and regulatory compliance. Option 5 is incorrect. Support requests are made from the Azure portal instead of support.microsoft.com. Question 26. You plan to build your application with an Azure virtual machine. Redundancy must be ensured so that the services running on the virtual machine are available in the event of a single data center failure. Solution: deploy the virtual machine to 2 or more AZs or more AZs. Does this solution meet the requirements? And the options are: Option 1, yes. Option 2, no. And the correct answer is Option 1, yes. Explanation: yes is the correct answer. Deploying VMs to more than one availability zone can keep them available in the event of a single data center failure. Question 27. You want to collaborate on application development with high-performance pipelines and GIT repositories. Which is the best Azure solution for that? And the options are: Option 1, Azure Dev Test Labs. Option 2, Azure Teams. Option 3, Azure Dev Ops. Option 4, Visual Studio Team Services. And the correct answer is Option 3, Azure Dev Ops. Explanation: Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure Dev Ops uses development collaboration tools such as high-performance pipelines, free private GIT repositories, configurable Kanban boards, and extensively automated cloud-based load testing. Option 1 is incorrect. Dev Test Labs is for quickly creating Windows and Linux environments as needed to test or demo your applications directly from the deployment pipeline. Option 2 is incorrect. There is no service called Azure Teams. Option 4 is incorrect. Azure Dev Ops was formerly known as Visual Studio Team Services. This is the old service name. Question 28. Your company has an on-premises environment and multiple servers and databases. They plan to migrate multiple servers to Azure in the future. Which tasks are alleviated in your administrative work compared to your on-premises environment? Please select 2. And the options are: Option 1, Physical Server Replacement. Option 2, Server Operating System Update. Option 3, Operational Document Management. Option 4, Access Authority Management. Option 5, Applying security patches for physical servers. And the correct answer is Option 1, Physical Server Replacement. Explanation: Option 1 and 5 are correct answers. According to Azure Responsibility Sharing Model, the Azure site will be responsible for managing all physical hardware. Therefore, in the event of a hardware server failure, it is Azure's responsibility to replace them as needed. Replacing the physical server and applying security patches for the physical server are management tasks that should be performed on the data center side, so they cannot be performed on the user side. Option 2 is incorrect. When using an Azure virtual machine, it is required that the user perform work such as updating the OS. Option 3 is incorrect. It is required for the user to create and manage the user's own operation document for sharing the Azure Operation Management Policy among the user members. Option 4 is incorrect. Access management is a matter that should be managed on the user side using Azure AD. Question 29. True or false? The availability zone consists of a single data center. And the options are: Option 1, true. Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 2, false. Explanation: the correct answer is false. Availability zones are unique physical locations within your Azure region. Each zone consists of one or more data centers with independent power supplies, cooling means, and networks. Question number 30. True or false? Availability zones are used to replicate data and applications to multiple regions. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. By default, Azure availability zones are used to replicate applications and data only within an Azure region. Availability zones are physically separated within a region, so you can protect your applications and data in the event of a data center failure. Zone redundancy services replicate applications and data across availability zones to protect against a single point of failure. In availability zones, Azure delivers the industry's highest 99.99% VM uptime SLAs. Question 31. True or false? Each region has at least 3 separate zones. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Not all regions have availability zones. Regions that support availability zones have a minimum of 3 separate zones to ensure resiliency. So it is not necessarily true that all regions will have 3 availability zones. Next question. Please select the option to fill in the following blanks. After you create a virtual machine, you need to change the dash to allow the virtual machine to connect to TCP port 8080. And the options are option 1, Network Security Group NSG. Option 2, Virtual Network Gateway. Option 3, Virtual Network. Option 4, Route Table. And the correct answer is option 1, Network Security Group NSG. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. By default, all inbound connections are not allowed on L4. So unless you have a network interface, you need to modify the rules of the Network Security Group so that all inbound connections from port 80/8080 can reach the VM. Option 2 is incorrect. The Azure Virtual Network Gateway is a VPN device in the Azure Virtual Network that is used to set up a site-to-site VPN connection between the Azure Virtual Network and the local network, or a VNet to VNet VPN connection. Option 3 is incorrect. A virtual network is nothing more than a private isolated network in Azure, because it is used to enable Azure resources such as virtual machines to communicate securely with other Azure resources, the internet, and resources in your on-premises network. Option 4 is incorrect. The Azure route table is incorrect because it only contains a set of rules that specify how packets are routed in the next question. Please select the option to fill in the following blank. If the resource group named My Resource Group has a delete lock, dash. And the options are option 1, only members of the Global Administrators Group can delete My Resource Group. Option 2, the delete lock must be released in order for the administrator to delete the My Resource Group. Option 3, administrator needs to change Azure policy in order to delete My Resource Group. Option 4, administrator needs to add an Azure tag in order to delete My Resource Group. And the correct answer is option 2. The delete lock must be released in order for the administrator to delete the My Resource Group. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. When you lock a resource group, the lock applies to all resources in the target group. Therefore, if the administrator wants to delete the target resource, the deletion lock must be released. If a resource group has a lock applied to it, even the administrator cannot delete the resource group. Option 1 is incorrect. Even global administrators cannot delete resource groups as long as locks are in effect. Option 3 is incorrect. Policies are used to apply compliance and organizational rules to resources and are not related to locks. Option 4 is incorrect. Tags are used for logical grouping of resources and are not related to locks. Next question. You have created a resource group named Resource 1 in Azure Resource Manager. What settings do you need to prevent accidental deletion of Resource 1's resources? And the options are: Option 1, Deletion Protection Settings. Option 2, Lock Settings. Option 3, Azure Policy Settings. Option 4, Property Abstinence. And the answer is Option 2, Lock Settings. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. Once the lock is applied at the resource group level, the resources in the group cannot be deleted. Administrators may need to lock subscriptions, resource groups, or resources to prevent other users in your organization from accidentally deleting or modifying critical resources. The lock level can be set to Cannot Delete or Read Only. In the portal, these locks are listed as Delete and Read Only, respectively. Option 1 is incorrect. There is no feature called Delete Protection for resource groups. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure Policy is a function that allows you to define and evaluate rules for using Azure. This does not prevent the removal of resources from the resource group. Option 4 is incorrect. The property abstinence is incorrect. This provides details for a particular resource group and does not prevent the deletion of resources within the resource group. Question 35. True or false? Azure Advisor provides advice on improving the security of your on-premise Active Directory environment. And the options are: Option 1, true. Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Azure Advisor provides a way to improve the security of your Azure resources, but it doesn't provide a way to improve the security of your on-premise Active Directory, which is Azure AD environment. Azure Advisor integrates with Azure Security Center, which can provide security recommendations to Azure AD and all Azure resources. Azure Advisor is a personalized cloud consultant that optimizes your Azure deployment according to the best practices. Resource configuration and usage statistics are analyzed to recommend solutions that help improve the cost-effectiveness, performance, reliability, formerly high availability, and security of Azure resources. Next question. True or false? Azure Advisor is where you can file a cap relaxation request for resource limits. And the options are: Option 1, true. Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Azure Advisor is a service that provides solutions that help you improve cost-effectiveness, performance, reliability, and security, and you cannot file a cap relaxation request for resource limits here. Question 37. True or false? Azure Advisor provides cost-cutting recommendations. And the options are: Option 1, true. Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 1, true. The correct answer is true. Azure Advisor provides recommendations on how to reduce the cost of running Azure virtual machines. Advisors provide relevant best practices to help you improve reliability, security, performance, achieve operational excellence, and reduce costs. Configure the advisor to target specific subscriptions and resource groups, focusing on critical optimizations. You can access the advisor using the Azure portal, the Azure command line interface, or the Azure API. Alternatively, Configure alerts to automatically notify you of new recommendations. Next question. True or false? Azure Advisor is available for free. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. Azure Advisor is a service that provides solutions that help you improve cost effectiveness, performance, reliability, and security and is available for free. Next question. Your company needs to run 10 Windows Server 2016 and 20 Linux virtual machines on a regular basis and remove them after their task processing is finished. Which Azure service should you use to minimize the administrative effort required to deploy and delete these virtual machines? And the options are option 1, Microsoft Virtual Desktop, option 2, Azure Reserved VM Instances, option 3, Azure Dev Test Labs, option 4, Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set. And the correct answer is option 3, Azure Dev Test Labs. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. You can use Azure Dev Test Labs to build a fast, easy development or test environment. It is possible to set the number of virtual machines by using the Azure Resource Manager template to configure the required number of virtual machines and settings in advance. Option 1 is incorrect. Microsoft Virtual Desktop is a desktop and app virtualization service that runs in the cloud. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure Reserved VM Instances launches virtual machines of any size in the reserved instance size group. So you can't specify and launch an instance of a particular size. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets allow you to create and manage groups of virtual machines and distribute the load within the same group, which is used when building large-scale services. Next question. You are considering migrating from your on-premises environment to Azure. You need to estimate the cost savings over time when running your solution on Azure. Which is the best solution for that? And the options are option 1, Price Calculation Tool, option 2, TCO Calculation Tool, option 3, Azure Advisor, option 4, Azure Reservations. And the correct answer is option 2, TCO Calculation Tool. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. You can use the TCO calculator to estimate the cost of running your solution in Azure instead of in your on-premises data center over time. Option 1 is incorrect. Pricing tools can estimate the cost of running a basic web application in Azure. This is a tool used for detailed quotations when using individual services, not for a cloud migration. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure Advisor provides recommendations on how to reduce the cost of running Azure virtual machines. Option 4 is incorrect. With Azure Reservations, you get discounted rates for certain Azure services. Save up to 70% on pay-as-you-go rates with Azure bookings. Next question. True or false? When you stop on Azure virtual machine, you will continue to pay for the storage costs associated with the virtual machine. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. If you shut down from outside of Azure portal, that is from the OS or the VM itself, the virtual machine according to the specified procedure, it will be stopped. In this state, the virtual machine incurs charges for CPU and memory allocation, but not for the license. When the VM is shut down from the Azure portal, it goes into a stopped state and the VM will not incur charges for VM compute resources. However, you still have to pay for the OS and data storage disks connected to the VM. Therefore, the correct answer is true. Next question. even if Azure resources are available in all regions, not all regions are available to users. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. Even if Azure resources are available in all regions, not all regions are available to users. For example, there is an availability zone that is specifically assigned to the US government and has restricted general usage. Next question. Please select the correct option to fill in the following blank. Azure services are available to all Azure users during dash. And the options are option 1, public preview, option 2, private preview, option 3, development, option 4, enterprise agreement subscription. And the correct answer is option 1, public preview. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. The public preview service is available to all users. Option 2 is incorrect. The private preview is only available to some users. Option 3 is incorrect. Not all users have access to Azure services during development. Option 4 is incorrect. Enterprise agreement subscriptions are only available to some users. Next question. You are preparing a server for application development using Azure. To do this, you need to create an Azure virtual machine using your Android laptop. Solution. Use the Power Apps portal. Will this solution achieve the goal? And the options are option 1, yes, option 2, no. And the correct answer is option 2, no. No is the correct answer. You can only create new VMs from the Azure portal, not from the Power Apps portal. You would use the Power Apps portal to create external websites that allow users outside your organization to sign in with different identities, create and view data in Microsoft Dataverse, and browse content anonymously. This is not the service to use when creating a virtual machine. Next question. Your company is planning to move from an on-premises environment to Azure, but you are only able to use the PaaS solutions. Solution. Use Azure App Service and have Microsoft SQL Server installed. Does this solution meet the requirements? And the options are option 1, yes, option 2, no. And the correct answer is option 2, no. Explanation. No is the correct answer. It is possible to build applications using Azure App Services, but Microsoft SQL Server needs to work with Azure resources in IaaS. Azure App Service is a fully managed platform and platform service for building, deploying, and scaling web apps. Azure App Service allows you to quickly build, deploy, and scale web apps and APIs. You can use .NET, .NET Core, Node.js, Java, Python, PHP running inside a container or on Windows or Linux. Next question. Your company requires that when an Azure Active Directory user connects to Azure AD from the internet using an anonymous IP address, the user must automatically request a password change. Which Azure service do you need to use to do this? And the options are option 1, Azure AD Connect Health, option 2, Azure AD Privileged ID Management, option 3, Azure Advanced Threat Protection, and option 4, Azure AD Identity Protection. And the correct answer is option 4, Azure AD Identity Protection. Explanation. Option 4 is the correct answer. Azure AD Identity Protection requires users who sign from the internet with an anonymous IP address to change their password and self-heal. Identity protection is a tool that allows organizations to perform 3 main tasks: automate identity-based risk detection and action, investigate risk using portal data, export risk detection data to third-party utilities for further analysis. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure AD Connect Health is incorrect because it is used to monitor identity governance or identity infrastructure for on-premises resources or servers. You can use the Azure AD Connect Health portal to view alerts, performance monitoring, usage analysis, and other information. Option 2 is incorrect. Privileged identity management in Azure AD is incorrect. This is used to provide just-in-time access, prevent malicious activity, and provide a fully integrated review of privileged roles in real time. It also helps you manage privileged administrator roles across Azure resources and Azure AD. Option 3 is incorrect. Azure Advanced Threat Protection, as the name implies, is used to detect threats from an on-premises resources. It is incorrect because the question is not regarding internal sources. Which of the following explanations about Azure usage costs is correct? And the options are: Option 1. Azure provides flexibility for capital expenditure and operating expenditure. Option 2. If you create two Azure virtual machines of the same size, the monthly usage fee for each virtual machine will be exactly the same. Option 3. If you stop the Azure virtual machine, you don't have to pay for the storage associated with the virtual machine. Option 4. You can see the unused resources that can be deleted by Azure support. And the correct answer is Option 1. Azure provides flexibility for capital expenditure and operating expenditure. The correct answer is Option 1. Cloud services like Azure provides flexibility between capital expenditure and operational expenditure. This makes it possible to convert capital expenditures, which are equipment costs such as data centers, into operating costs. Option 2 is incorrect. Two Azure virtual machines of the same size do not always generate the same monthly cost. This is because it also depends on the region where the virtual machine is located, as each has a different cost. Option 3 is incorrect. If your Azure virtual machine goes down, you will continue to pay for storage if you don't end this. Option 4 is incorrect. Running Azure Advisor will let you know which unused resources you can or might want to remove. Question number 48. True or false? Maintaining performance during load fluctuations is an example of cloud flexibility. And the options are: Option 1, true; Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Maintaining performance during load fluctuations is an example of cloud scalability. In the cloud, high scalability is also one of the advantages. Since the settings of the cloud can be changed on the web via the internet, changes can be made easily and instantly according to the environment, such as increasing the number of servers used. This is called cloud scalability. Next question. True or false? The flexibility to adjust resource allocation is an example of cloud flexibility. And the options are: Option 1, true; Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. Being able to use as much cloud resources as you need as your system grows is an example of cloud flexibility. The cloud allows you to freely use and stop services according to your needs, and you will pay a fee according to the time you use it. Question 50. True or false? The ability to continue the usage of service in the event of a failure is an example of cloud flexibility. And the options are: Option 1, true; Option 2, false. And the correct answer is Option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Continuing service in the event of a failure is an example of cloud resiliency. Each Azure region has at least 3 separate zones to ensure resiliency. As a result, Services can be made redundant, and recovery in the event of a failure can be facilitated. This is important when compared to having only physical infrastructure. Question 51. True or false? The ability to maintain a DR, disaster recovery, configuration in other regions is an example of cloud flexibility. The options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. Maintaining a DR configuration in other regions is an example of cloud resiliency. For example, in Azure, you can use Azure Site Recovery to continuously replicate virtual machines and physical servers at your on-premises primary site and replicate them to your secondary site's servers in the event of a failure to quickly recover. Question 52. True or false? In order to move to a hybrid cloud, we need to move from a private cloud. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. To implement a hybrid cloud model, it is possible to migrate from the public cloud model or the private cloud model. You can choose the migration method according to your company's needs and current cloud model usage. Question 53. True or false? You can use the public cloud to expand the capacity of your internal network. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. Companies can use the public cloud to expand the capacity of their internal network. If your enterprise needs additional resources, you can deploy them inside the public cloud network, which allows you to extend your internal network. Question 54. True or false? In order to move to a hybrid cloud, we need to move from a public cloud. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. To implement a hybrid cloud model, it is possible to migrate from a public cloud model or a private cloud model. You can choose the migration method based on your company's needs and the current cloud model type. Next question. True or false? The public cloud only allows guest users from within the company to access resources in the cloud. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2. Explanation. The correct answer is false. The public cloud is accessible to guest users within the company, but it is also accessible to legitimate users such as employees. By linking your Azure account and AD, you can grant Azure access to those who have been given a user ID by AD in the company. Question 56. True or false? Azure resources can only access other resources in the same resource group. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 2, false. The correct answer is false. Access to resources within another resource group is not restricted. A resource group is a container that holds related resources for your Azure solution. A resource group can contain all resources of the solution or only the resources that you want to manage as a group. You can specify how to allocate resources to resource groups based on your organization needs. In general, you add resources that share the same lifecycle to the same resource group so that you can easily deploy, update, and delete them as a group. A resource group is a mechanism for managing resources collectively and is not used for controls such as access control. Question 57. True or false? When you delete a resource group, all the resources in the resource group are deleted. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. Deleting a resource group deletes all resources in the resource group. A resource group is a collection of Azure resources with specified requirements and is a logical container for all Azure resources in your Azure subscription. Therefore, when a resource group is deleted, all resources in the resource group are also deleted. Question 58. True or false? Resource groups can only contain resources from the same Azure region, and the options are option 1, true, option 2, false, and the correct answer is option 2, false. Explanation. The correct answer is false. A resource group can contain resources from multiple Azure regions. After the Create Resource Group page is displayed, you need to enter an appropriate resource group name and select a region. Question 59. True or false? A resource group can contain resources from multiple Azure regions. And the options are option 1, true, option 2, false. And the correct answer is option 1, true. Explanation. The correct answer is true. A resource group can contain resources from multiple Azure regions. When creating an Azure resource using the portal or CLI commands, users can choose from multiple regions in which to create. The resources in a resource group can be located in different regions than the resource group. When you create a resource group, you need to provide a location for that resource group. You may be wondering, why does a resource group need a location? And if the resources can have different locations than the resource group, why does the resource group location matter at all? The resource group stores metadata about the resources. When you specify a location for the resource group, you are specifying where the metadata is stored. For compliance reasons, you may need to ensure that your data is stored in a particular region. Except in global resources like Azure Content Delivery Network, Azure DNS, Azure Traffic Manager, and Azure Front Door. If a resource group's region is temporarily unavailable, you can't update resources in the resource group because the metadata isn't available. The resources in other regions will still function as expected, but you can't update them. Question number 60. You are using Azure App to develop multiple web applications. Which of the following URLs are used to manage the web application on Azure App? And the options are option 1, portal.microsoft.com, option 2, azure.portal.com, option 3, portal.azure.net, option 4, portal.azure.com, and the correct answer is option 4, portal.azure.com. Explanation. Option 4 is the correct answer. If you need to create and manage an Azure web app, you can do it from the Azure portal as shown below. The URL for the Azure portal is portal.azure.com. Option 1 is incorrect. This URL is the Microsoft portal screen, not the admin screen for the Azure web app. Option 2 and 3 are incorrect. The URL does not exist. Question 61. As an operations manager, you are in charge of managing each service in Azure. You are looking to find advice about maintenance-related events for Azure resources. Which service located on the Azure portal would you use? And the options are option 1, Azure Advisor, option 2, Security Center, option 3, Help and Support, option 4, Cost Management and Billing. And the correct answer is option 2, Security Center. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. You can find more information about maintenance in the Help and Support on the Azure portal. Planned maintenance information can be found on Service Health page. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure Advisor is a feature that provides only recommendations on cost, security, performance, operational excellence, high availability, and more. Option 2 is incorrect. The Security Center is a feature that provides details about policies and compliance, threat protection, and more. Option 3 is incorrect. Cost management and billing is a feature that provides only billing coverage and cost management details. Question 62. You have just created an Azure account and are preparing to deploy Azure services. Which of the following should be created next? And the options are: Option 1, Virtual Network; Option 2, Free Account; Option 3, Subscription; Option 4, Azure AD. And the correct answer is Option 3, Subscription. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. After creating an Azure account, you first need to create a subscription and then configure resource groups, etc. Within that subscription, you can set up multiple subscriptions for one account. Question 63. You are preparing a server for application development using Azure. To do this, you need to create an Azure virtual machine using your Android laptop. Solution: use Bash with Azure Cloud Shell. Will this achieve the goal? And the options are: Option 1, yes; Option 2, no. And the correct answer is Option 1, yes. Yes is the correct answer. You can use Bash from Cloud Shell by logging into the Azure portal from your Android laptop. Then you can create a new virtual machine from Bash with CLI. Cloud Shell is a management machine for Azure, managed by Microsoft. Azure Cloud Shell gives you the flexibility to choose the best shell operation for your business. Both Bash and PowerShell are possible options for this. Question 64. Your company has 500 virtual machines hosted on a Hyper-V host in an on-premises environment. You plan to move all of these to Azure. What will the spending model of your company be after migrating to Azure? And the options are: Option 1, Capital Expenditure; Option 2, Operating Expenditure; Option 3, Elasticity; Option 4, Scalability. And the correct answer is Option 2, Operating Expenditure. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. With Azure, you pay only for what you use, and there is no initial cost. Details of capital expenditure and operating expenditure are as follows. Capital expenditure. Capital expenditure incurs the cost of physical infrastructure in advance, to which tax deductions can be made over a period of time. Capital expenditure has an initial cost and will decrease in value over time. Operating expenses. Operating expenses is the amount you are currently spending on services and products and is frequently billed for. These costs will be deducted from the tax claim for that same year. There is no initial cost. You pay as you use a service or product. In other words, spending on cloud services like Azure match closer to concept of operating expenditure as opposed to CapEx. Question 65. You need to be aware of the latest Azure security standards to protect your data. Which of the following services should you use to ensure this? And the options are: Option 1, Azure Government; Option 2, Online Terms of Service; Option 3, Trust Center; Option 4, Azure Compliance Documentation. And the correct answer is Option 3, Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. The Trust Center implements Microsoft's principles for maintaining data integrity in the cloud, and Microsoft implements security, privacy, compliance, and transparency in all Microsoft Cloud products and services. The Trust Center is an important part of the Microsoft Trusted Cloud Initiative, providing support and resources regarding the legal information and compliance. Option 1 is incorrect. Azure Government is another Microsoft Azure service. It addresses the security and compliance needs of US federal agencies, state and local governments, and their solution providers. Azure Government provides physical isolation from non-US government agencies and has the ability to screen US personnel. Option 2 is incorrect. The Online Terms of Service is a legal agreement between Microsoft and you. The OST details obligations of both parties regarding the processing and security of customer and personal data. Option 4 is incorrect. The Azure Compliance document provides detailed documentation on Azure legal and regulatory standards and compliance. You can also see the reference blueprints that can be applied directly to your Azure subscription. Question 66. Which solution should you use to assess whether your Azure environment meets security regulatory requirements? And the options are: Option 1, Knowledge Center website. Option 2, Azure Advisor. Option 3, Compliance Manager. Option 4, Azure Security Center. And the correct answer is Option 4, Azure Security Center. Explanation. Option 4 is the correct answer. Azure Security Center is a support service that helps you prevent, detect, and respond to threats by visualizing and controlling the security of your Azure resources. The Security Center continually views new resources deployed throughout your workload, evaluates whether they are configured according to security best practices, and flags them otherwise. It also provides a prioritized list of recommendations for the corrections needed to protect your machine. It provides integrated security monitoring and policy management across subscriptions and assess whether your Azure environment meets regulatory requirements. Option 1 is incorrect. The Knowledge Center is incorrect because it is a website for question and answer that provides all the commonly sought after answers relating to Azure services. Option 2 is incorrect. Advisor is a personalized cloud consultant that you use to help follow best practices in optimizing your Azure deployment. Option 3 is incorrect. Compliance Manager is a workflow-based risk assessment tool listed on Microsoft Service Trust portal. Compliance Manager allows you to track, assign, and validate regulatory compliance activities for organizations related to Microsoft professional services such as Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and Microsoft Azure, as well as Microsoft Cloud Services. Question 67. Is this statement true? Azure pay-as-you-go pricing is an example of CapEx. And the options are: Option 1, yes. Option 2, no. And the correct answer is Option 2, no. Explanation. The correct answer is no. CapEx refers to capital expenditures and capital investment made to improve businesses' productivity and increase assets. Therefore, Azure pay-as-you-go plans are not an example of CapEx and is not the correct answer. OpEx is the various expenses required to operate a business. Pay-as-you-go is an example of OpEx, a type of subscription in which you pay for what you use. Question 68. Is the following statement true? Azure Security Center can monitor both Azure resources and on-premises resources. And the options are: Option 1, yes. Option 2, no. And the correct answer is Option 1, yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Azure Security Center is an integrated infrastructure security management system that enhances the security structure of your data center. It has advanced threat protection that protects your entire hybrid workload in the cloud and on premises, whether in Azure or not. You can also see the status of your resources and whether they are secure. So it's the correct answer. Question 69. Which cloud service format allows users to use services that have already been created and pay for them in the form of subscription model? And the options are option 1, PaaS, option 2, IaaS, option 3, SaaS, and option 4, DaaS. And the correct answer is option 3, SaaS. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Software as a service is a cloud-based software that allows you to use features and services as needed. Option 1 is incorrect. Platform as a service is a cloud format that provides a set of platforms such as hardware and OS for running the application software as a service. Option 2 is incorrect. Infrastructure as a service is a cloud format that allows you to use the hardware required to use servers, etc. over the network. Option 4 is incorrect. Desktop as a service is a virtual desktop, a cloud service that provides a desktop virtualization system deployed in a cloud environment. Question 70. You are developing an application in a resource group using Azure Virtual Network and Azure App Service. Based on compliance standards, you should prevent the creation of new virtual machines within this resource group from sources other than Azure App Services. Which of the following would you use to maintain this standard? And the options are option 1, Azure Policy, option 2, Role, option 3, Tag, option 4, Lock. And the correct answer is option 1. Explanation. Option 1 is the correct answer. You can restrict the creation, update, deletion of resources with Azure Policy. Azure Policy allows you to apply your organization's standard and assess compliance on a large scale. You can use Azure policies to apply rules to management or resource groups which can limit the space available for creating resources. This policy applies to all subscriptions and resources under that management group by only allowing the creation of resources in that region. Users in each office can only define and evaluate policies in Azure resources in the region of the country where each office is located. Option 2 is incorrect. Roles provide the ability to manage permissions on resources, so you cannot restrict the creation of resources with these. Option 3 is incorrect. Tags are used only for resource identification purposes. Option 4 is incorrect. Locks are used to prevent changes to Azure subscriptions, resource groups, or resources, and you can't limit the creation of resources.
Thank you for watching this video. Please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Buy our premium AZ bundle with 90% off. Check link in the description.